What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the best wand and dagger build in Throne and Liberty. So in this guide I will give you a quick overview of the setup. Then after that I will explain what skills and upgrades should you focus on. Then as well we'll see what is the best gear and how to get it for both the mid game and the full end game. And then finally we will go over the weapon masteries, stats, your skill rotations, and even what guardian should you use, so we would be able to get the highest healing while doing as much damage as possible, and much more. This setup is a support build that can still do big damage and is more oriented towards mixing melee and ranged playstyles. By us combining a mixture of survivability and damage with skills like the Thundercloud's bombing and the swift healing, we will be able to do both, so deal huge amount of damage while keeping our teammates alive. Also, this build will require decent mana regen to perform well, so to achieve the highest numbers possible, we'll need to use the right items and specializations. So let's move over to the setup. For the choice of weapons, we are going with the dagger and the wand. And first of all we have our skills. So for defensive skill we use the chaotic shield, while for active skills we get the cleaving moonlight, shadow strike, inject venom, brutal incision, fatal stigma, touch of despair, curse explosion, corrupted magic circle, time for punishment, blessed barrier, swift healing, and karmic haze. As you can see from the gameplay, I don't have all of the same skill icons on my bar. It is because the skill icons will change depending on our specialization setup. So, Inject Venom will turn into the Lightning Infusion, then Brutal Incision will turn into the Thundercloud's Bombing, then Corrupted Magic Circle will turn into Decaying Touch, then the Time for Punishment will turn into Enchanting Time, then Blessed Barrier will turn into the Fighting Spirit Barrier, and finally the Karmic Haze will turn into the Unlucky Clock. Then for passives, we want to go with the Assassin's Instincts, Murderous Energy, Wrathful Edge, Destructive Fang, Wrath's Beacon, Vampiric Contract, Devotion and Emptiness, and finally the Noble Revival. As for skill upgrade priority for active skills, we want to mainly focus on the Curse Explosion, Cleaving Moonlight, Brutal Incision, Inject Venom, and Swift Healing, while for passive skills we focus on the Wrathful Edge, Assassin's Instincts, Devotion and Emptiness, Wrath's Beacon, and Murderous Energy. And then for the rest of your skills, they're not as important, so just upgrade them as you progress through the game. Also, remember to always upgrade all of your skills to blue first before moving on to the purple. Next we have skill specialization, and for the Cleaving Moonlight we select the consecutive use and effect duration. Then for Inject Venom, get the Lightning Infusion and mana cost reduced. Then for Fatal Stigma, don't get anything. For Curse Explosion, get all 3, so Dark Explosion, Damage Increase, and Focus Target. Then Time for Punishment, get the Enchanting Time. Then for Swift Healing and Shadow Strike, don't get anything. Then for Brutal Incision, get the Thundercloud's Bombing and the cooldown reduction. For Touch of Despair, get Effect Duration and Curse. For Corrupted Magic Circle, get Decaying Touch. Then for Blessed Barrier, get the Fighting Spirit Barrier. And finally for the Karmic Haze, get the Unlucky Clock. Next we have the Weapon Mastery, and this is how it should look like for the dagger. So take a look at the middle and get everything from Silent Dash up until the buff duration. Then next go to the bottom and get these 3 nodes. And then lastly go to the top and get that entire row up until the buff duration. And then again, this is how it should look like for the wand. So very similar. At the start get everything in the middle, starting with the pure healing up until the deep pain. Then next go to the bottom and get these 3 nodes. And now finally go to the top and get that entire row. Next let's take a look at our gear, and all of these items you can easily farm yourself, which means that I specifically found items that only require for you to grind specific spots, and not use Action House or go to field bosses if you don't want to. And also, if you're looking for leveling or farming gear setup, then I recommend for you to watch my leveling guides, which are already up on the channel. So first off, we are using the Licorious Wicked Thorns, with traits like the hit chance, heavy attack chance, and critical hit chance. All gear should be at its max level, and you can get this item's crafting recipe from the Cave of Destruction. Next we have the Licorious Coveted Tome, with traits such as the hit chance, heavy attack chance, and critical hit chance. You can also get it from the same place, so the Cave of Destruction. Next we have the elusive Hexweaver hat, with max health, melee evasion and cooldown speed. You can get it by defeating NPCs such as the Excavator 9 or the Worker Ant. Next we have the Supreme Devotion with max mana, mana regen and debuff duration. You can get it from the Cave of Destruction. Next we have the Ascendant Guardian Raiment with max health, melee evasion and buff duration. You can get it from a lot of precious blessing pouches or by defeating the Grand Alien. And as we're using 2 pieces of the Transcendent Wand set, so we will get 7.5% cooldown speed. Next we have the Ascendant Guardian Gloves with max mana, melee evasion and added attack speed. You can get it from the Butcher's Canyon. Next we have the elusive Hexweaver Pants with max health, melee evasion and debuff duration. You can get it by defeating the Excavator 9 or the Acid Ant. Next we have the Glade Stalker Boots with max health, melee evasion and ranged evasion. You can get it from the Cave of Destruction and from the Spectre's Abyss. Next up we have the Ecliptic Pendant with max mana, skill damage boost and buff duration. You can get it from the Butcher Canyon. Next we have the Ancient Saurodoma Bracers with max mana, mana regen and debuff duration. You can get it from bunch of purple armor chests or from the Tyrant's Isle. Next we have the Violent Signet with max health, skill damage boost and buff duration. You can get it from the Cursed Wasteland. Next we have the Amber Dimensional Band with max health, skill damage boost and buff duration. You can only get it from the purple armor chests. And now finally we have the Belt of the Endless Slaughter with max health, skill damage resistance and debuff duration. Last but not least, if at this current moment you only have blue gear, then don't worry, because that gear doesn't really matter, and you will soon enough start changing it for the purple pieces. This setup that I showed is the best current gear that anyone can farm, but no matter what gear you choose, this build will still work fine, but this setup is just an example of what good items with good traits will look like. Next up, let's take a look at our gear upgrades. This game doesn't have a very typical gear progression, so by this I mean that you will have to upgrade pretty much anything you get. So you'll go from grey to green to blue and finally to purple. No matter at which stage of progression you're watching this video, just keep upgrading your equipment to their max level. And then when you get better gear, just transfer the experience from the old one to the new one. As for my gear recommendations, when you reach level 50, just farm accessible gear by doing open world dungeons. On top of that, all the purple gear that you don't use, you want to turn into lithographs and then sell them on the auction house. Last but not least, for your traits, just prioritize the ones that give you the highest damage. And don't forget that you can acquire new traits by using the trait unlock stone. Next up we have the stats, and depending on your gear, you should adjust them accordingly. The goal for your endgame build is to reach 30 strength, 40 dexterity, 40 wisdom and 30 perception. And then from here, put your leftover points into dexterity. For PVE, you care mainly about maximum damage, so putting points into dexterity is very important. Also, as our build will require quite a lot of mana, so we firstly get all attributes to at least 30 for that easy DPS increase and mana regen. Next we have our Guardian choice, and this creature is a special transformation that can add offensive or defensive buffs to your character for 30 seconds. And for our build we have the 2 best choices. The first and most popular choice is the Shade Remnant Steno. This Guardian launches projectiles every second that can crit and heavy attack. This is the best Guardian for dealing damage, and for PvE, damage is all that really matters, so this is our best choice. Or then the second option is also the Masked Warlock Dentalux. If you find that you and your party members are having mana issues, then take this one instead, because he will give you a huge amount of mana sustain. And now finally we have come to the gameplay, and I will give you 2 rotations, one for DPS and one for healing. So first up, we have our main DPS rotation, which we start by using the Lightning Infusion, then Enchanting Time, then Touch of Despair, then Shadow Strike, then Fatal Stigma, then again the Lightning Infusion, then Fighting Spirit Barrier, then Cleaving Moonlight twice, and then from here we just wait a second for the Fatal Stigma to explode. And then from here we continue with the Thunderclouds Bombing, then the Touch of Despair, then Decaying Touch, then Unlucky Clock. And now we finally finish it off with a Curse Explosion. And from here we just rinse and repeat. The main idea behind this combo is to use buffs and DPS skills in between, while building up stacks and conserving our mana, We also want to use Touch of Despair every single time it comes off cooldown. And on top of that, always use the Shadow Strike or Cleaving Moonlight before the Curse Explosion, because this will proc our Dagger passive for the highest DPS possible. And then finally, we only want to use the Cleaving Moonlight twice, because it will give us buffs only when it's active, so we don't want to use it for the last third time and deactivate it. And then on the other hand, we have the Healing, and this is less meant as a rotation, but more as what healing skills you should activate first and prioritize when your teammates get low HP. So we use the Blitz Barrier, then the Swift Healing, and then finally the Chaotic Shield. Also, because of the Vampiric Contract passive, we will heal ourselves or teammates when dealing curse damage to the enemies. The main objective behind our playstyle is to deal as much damage as possible, while also keeping an eye on our teammates, and when they start taking damage and going below about 70 or 80% HP, then we start healing them, and that's about it. So if you enjoyed this video, click like, subscribe and comment. If you are interested in more content, then check out my channel and I will see you in the next one. So take it easy, peace.